All right. So we're going to be looking at a video by a YouTuber called Scotty Kombat. I'll post a link in the description for this particular video. And it showed up on my recommended feed because it was talking about how Mortal Kombat Trilogy needs to be in the MK Legacy Collection. So let's jump in.
How's it going, everyone? Scotty Kombat here, and I want to talk about the Legacy Collection edition that's coming out this year, which honestly I feel like it's coming really quick. It's 2025 and we're already in June and the game's coming out soon. What I really want to talk about in this video is Mortal Kombat Trilogy and the possibility of this game being on that collection, which I really hope it is. And I say that for several reasons, because one, if you have played the original Mortal Kombat games, you know how much fun Mortal Kombat Trilogy is. That is, those of us that do enjoy it. There are some people out there that have played Trilogy that have also played the classic Mortal Kombat games that really don't care for it. That's unfortunate. I love Trilogy, and I really do want to see it come back, and I think more people want to...
Sorry, I'm fighting a cold at the moment. I've got the big sneezies at me, so my apologies. Yeah, it's so funny. Like, there are people out there that dead on like hate Trilogy, but ultimately Trilogy is kind of like it is the final culmination of the MK3 series. But also it just decided to go out with a bit of a bang. You know, just have some fun by adding boss characters, the aggressor mode. You know, just cool stuff like that. Of course, the brutalities as well.
Want to see it come back than folks that don't want to see it come back. Now I want to share some ones that seem obvious to me at first. There's other titles that could be coming with the game that may not be Trilogy that people were considering. People were saying maybe we'll get Deception, maybe we'll get Armageddon, and honestly I don't see us getting the 3D era games with this collection unless they were to give us all of them. I don't think they're going to give us one 3D era game with all of the arcade games. It doesn't make too much sense to me, but hey, I could be wrong. It could be here's Deadly Alliance with the rest of the Deadly Alliance ports, and then we'll come out with a new volume, and from there we'll start with Deception and move forward.
Yeah, no, that'll just break the cohesion of the packs. That's what I've been saying for the longest time, is that MK fans, especially as old as I am, have been looking at the entire series in certain segments. You got the 2D Legacy, 3D, and then NRS era, essentially. Although MK vs DC, and MK9 were the last of the true Midway games. Excuse me. Even though NetherRealm was the one that essentially, when MK9 came out, it was their first game. But in reality, as Total MK has said many times, it was actually being created, was created under Midway before the buyout. That's why MK9 feels so radically different to MK10. So it wouldn't make much sense to add in the 3D era version with the 2D ports, because then you've got to wait. Then what they're going to bring out a pack with Deception and Armageddon and Unchained and maybe the Wii version outside of either the PS2 or Xbox version, as well as Shaolin Monks. That breaks the visual cohesion completely for me, and I think for a lot of people, right? You have three distinct eras you can sell here, or as I've stated already, they make it a pack, so that it's actually a DLC pack, which ends up being the entire 3D era that they could add on to the Legacy Collection, and the Legacy Collection becomes a massive front end for all things MK.
I can't say I really care for that approach. At the same time, I love Deadly Alliance, so actually getting that full port and with the online capability that it never had, I'm all for it. I wouldn't complain, I'd be really happy. It just seems like an odd way to deliver a product with one 3D era game and then having to wait for the next one and it not being included in that one, if that makes sense. Real quick, for those that don't know, MK Trilogy is a combination of the first three Mortal Kombat games pretty much for the most part. You can play as Shao Kahn, you can play as Goro, you can play as Kentaro, you can play as Mataro. That is, you can play as the boss characters and all the other characters, similar to Mortal Kombat Armageddon, but this is like Armageddon for the 2D era, right? Well, you could only play as the boss characters if it was the PlayStation 1 port. If you played the N64 port, It sucked because you couldn't play as any of the boss characters, however you still got the rest of the characters, with the addition of female chameleon to kind of make up for that. Which in my opinion, it doesn't make up for missing 4 characters, but it was still a neat addition to have a different character in there to say, hey, here's something different. Most of us that are giant Mortal Kombat nerds, you can throw us one new character and we'll freak out. It worked. Floyd came to MK1. Pink wasn't my most favorite color for a new ninja, nor was the name, but it was a new Mortal Kombat character, and the experience is very fun, especially when it's a secret character. Now,
I think we're missing what? We're missing pink. Oh, well, now technically we do with Floyd. We've got white. We've got maybe orange, perhaps, because we've got yellow, right? And people might go, oh, but Tremor, yeah, but Tremor's brown. Tremor's really brown. I don't care how hard you squint, he's brown, right? There is no orange at all. But yeah, I think yeah, like he's correct. Like, you know, one of the big things about especially classic MK was the secrets. Getting excited about what you could discover or seeing a new character. Chameleon was an original character added to Trilogy, right? So we got to actually use him in Trilogy, which was great. I'm assuming, because I barely touched the N64 version, but the N64 version, I think, probably due to memory, they probably made it so that they only had the female, like they had a female version of Chameleon, and whereas the rest of the ports out there, they actually had a male version because they could actually do more with that character because of there's more male ninjas than female ninjas. So, but yeah, I mean, it'd be kind of cool to have both in one game. I mean, they did that in Armageddon on the Wii version.
I'm not trying to jam-pack this video with hot takes, but I do want to share as many reasons why as possible that I do want to see Trilogy come to this game. With the first one being, there are a lot of us out there that enjoy this game that would like to see it return. 2, I think it's one of the most likely games to show up. For example, like I just shared with the 3D era games. Now, there are other games that could show up here instead of Trilogy, like Mythologies or Special Forces. In fact, both of those games could show up, or even all 3 of these games could show up. I'm focusing on Trilogy for the multiple reasons that I think it is the best one of the bunch, if we're not counting the 3D era games. Some of the reasons people never wanted to see Trilogy be remastered is, yes, here are some of the bugs. There's some missing sound files on some of the stages. Sometimes even the stage and music will stop if you play on low damage mode. It won't loop as many times. That's already a modified game mode. Some of these I feel like wouldn't be very difficult fixes, although I'm not a game developer, so I really can't say. Now, the pacing of Mortal Kombat Trilogy is a little different than Mortal Kombat 3 and UMK3, but that's not a bad thing. Like, comparing MK3 to UMK3, the pacing's different. I think that's okay. It's alright to have the game a little different. MK Trilogy also has the aggressor bar, which most people aren't a fan of. If you look at the bottom of the screen, you see the letters forming aggressor. Whenever that fills up completely, your character's enhanced, letting you do extra damage. But you can go into the options of the game and turn this feature off if you don't like it.
As far as like the AI goes, Ultimate MK3 and Trilogy share the same AI. There are some differences in terms of interactions. So, for example, you can actually like harpoon Motaro, right? So originally, Motaro was completely immune to projectiles, right? But in Trilogy, you could actually harpoon with Scorpion Motaro, which is really weird, right? But they obviously, maybe they did that just to make it a little bit easier for people, you know? Maybe they realized that he was just way too OP to completely have like him immune to any sort of projectile whatsoever or an auto reflect. But yeah, I don't know. It'll be yeah. I don't know. I'm just curious. I'm pretty sure it's going to be in the game. I'm just curious which version they'll take, because I'm hoping it's the PC version because that's the best version. And there's no load time. Now I know obviously through emulation, the load time would be minimal as well, but the PC version is literally there. Like, they could literally, like, it's on Good Old Games right now. I've done a review on it on the channel. It's amazing. I still own the original CD from back in the day. So, to have that version, I think, would be the pinnacle version. 100%.
We do get Trilogy, say we only get one port of it. I really, really hope it's the PlayStation 1 port and not the N64 port because of the lack of roster. Not only that, the quality of the music and the sound effects aren't that great. The sound effects and the music for Mortal Kombat Trilogy sounds like everything coming out of the speaker pushed into a pillow. I'm gonna let you listen for a second so you know what I mean.
It's so muffled. Man, look at those graphics. Oh, yeah, they're so much worse. No, this is no wonder Total MK has a meltdown when it comes to Trilogy, right? Because like it's obvious that, you know, that is the worst version out there. And anyone that started playing Trilogy on the N64 bought it probably for one or two reasons. One, because it's probably the only console they owned. B, well, the second reason would be because of load time, which there is none. Right? That was the big argument back in the day between me and my mates, that I preferred the PlayStation 1 because we got the more characters, better graphics. We got the Red Book audio sound because it was CD. We didn't have... yeah, we got the Shang Tsung loads for the morphs, but you could go into the options. There was an option in there where you could limit the morphs to basically your opponent, right? So you could just morph to your opponent because they'd already loaded in the character model for your opponent, so therefore there was no load time whatsoever. So so still, despite that issue, the PS1 version is still superior, plus obviously the 4 classics and Male Chameleon and the accurate stages, because they changed some of these stages as well, right?
As far as visual and sound effects, I would say the PS1 version's more superior. I'm just going to run this as an example. That was the N64. This is the PS1. Look how much better that looks.
Flawless victory.
The announcer, also known as Steve Ritchie, sounds very clean here. The sound effects, the visuals. PS1 version is just far more superior than the N64 version. I really hope we get this. I will say this, if they bring back Special Forces and Mythology,
even the colors look better.
All the games we're already getting in their ports in this Legacy Collection, and they don't include Trilogy, I'm not going to be happy that it's not in there. But if we get news that they're working on another collection, and this one will be a part of the next one, it would dampen the blow, but I feel like Trilogy truly does belong with the 2D era games. I dare say, it's one of the first Mortal Kombat games where you get to choose like a different skin for your character, when really you're choosing a different game version of that character. For example, Kung Lao's in Mortal Kombat 2 and Mortal Kombat 3. You can flip the box and choose which Kung Lao you want to play as, the one from 2 or 3. It's not even that, and just that they're different skins, they also have some different abilities too, and they even added some new moves to the older characters to make them fit in with the newer ones as well. Trilogy is also the first...
So Baraka in Trilogy has a top spin move where he puts his arms out with his blades and he spins like a top, which you can control, right? It's fucking hilarious. It's got a gigantic reach. But what a lot of people don't realize is that this was an original move added into Mortal Kombat 2. There's a video on my channel where I talk about this. We actually had a 0 something revision of Mortal Kombat 2 at a cinema that I used to go to a lot. I remember coming out with my girlfriend at the time, and everyone was huddled around MK, like this arcade machine over in the corner, and I'm like, what's that? Anyway, I go over, I see it's MK2. So for the very first time, I'm seeing Mortal Kombat 2 out in the wild. I had no idea it was coming. But this wasn't a 1.0. This was a 0.x version. And I remember distinctly seeing Baraka's top spin move in that. And they eventually removed it. Why? Because it's a gigantic reach move. Like, it's such a massive reach across the screen that it's pretty OP. Okay? But they added that back in to Trilogy because it had been a long-standing move. And it's exactly the same animation as what I remember seeing on that arcade machine. So that was a really cool thing to do. They also brought back Johnny Cage. Obviously not Daniel Pesina, but it was Chris Alexander. So that was really cool as well. We obviously got Raiden. We got Raiden coming back as well, which is really cool. So yeah, it was pretty awesome to have. You know, they really brought back some of these characters to really give us a complete version, and it was great. It was such a great bookend to the entirety of the 2D era. And even though MK4 came out and then eventually Gold, yeah, they're not bad. Like, they're okay. But if I had to be locked in a room for the rest of my life with either MK4 or Gold or MK Trilogy. It's Trilogy all the way. It's not even a contest.
Straight to home port Mortal Kombat, there is no arcade version of this game. It was directly to the Nintendo 64 and PlayStation 1. I would say there's some nostalgia of bad feelings for some people from the arcade era looking at Trilogy and looking at its flaws and really highlighting those in comparison to the original UMK3 or MK3. There's some bugs in it, but honestly they're pretty minor. You can have a lot of fun playing this game, and it also lets people play as the boss characters like this is a human player playing Shao Kahn against the computer. Now I do have to share, for those that don't know, the boss characters don't have combos like all of your regular characters, but the regular hits are extra powerful to compensate for that. I mean, 2 hits right there and the character almost lost half their life. It's just really fun to play against each other. Some people are also going to argue that the boss characters are less stronger because they don't have combos, their jumps are kind of clunky looking, they feel stiff to play, which they are, but still, it's all for fun. Yes, Trilogy has some bugs, but it's a very, very fun game.
Look, this is the argument I have with Total, right? He doesn't like Trilogy because there's boss characters in the roster, but he doesn't understand that Trilogy is basically like, it's kind of like the last hurrah fun edition of the MK3 series, right? It's not like they have put stuff in there just for fun, right? Just for complete fun. So therefore, if you are playing against your friends and your friends are like, look, I don't want to use boss characters, they're too OP, I don't like it feels crappy fighting against them, then we as a rule would generally go, we're not using the boss characters, right? That's the way that we always worked it, yeah. And Total just, I said to him, just listen, don't choose the fucking boss characters, man. Just don't choose the boss characters. Just leave them alone, right? It's a rule that you speak of, and you go, right, no boss characters while we do the fights. And he's like, oh, but they're on the screen. We should be able to select them. I said, yeah, but you're not understanding. Like, you can. This is what we used to do, right? This is what we used to do back in the day. If there was a game that had some sort of broken mechanic and we knew about it, like for example in MK1, there's like the Sonya leg throw glitch. Things like that, you just wouldn't do it, right? You just wouldn't even entertain it. And you might go, oh, but it's in the game. Yeah, but there's also like touch of death combos that were in, I believe it's in MK9. Other games had some pretty bad glitches, like for example the hot punch with Johnny Cage with somebody in the corner. But you don't do these things because you know they're cheap, you know they're bad, and obviously back then they couldn't patch anything out. But you just knew that if you were made aware of it, you don't do it, right? Because at the end of the day, like Trilogy, we got to have every MK character fight every MK character. That in on itself is fucking awesome.
Legacy Collection releases, I'm absolutely playing online with many of you that want to play it. I love playing Trilogy, but if it's not there, then I'll suffice for UMK3 and MK3. I really can't wait to play MK4 because I've never experienced MK4 online. Yes, MK4's graphics aren't the greatest, but it's still a really fun game.
So essentially, like MK4 came out on PC, and it looks amazing, right? So essentially, we're gonna get that. Like, if you want to see what the closest it's gonna look like, it's either the PC version or MK Gold, right? Because the MK Gold run through an emulator, you can increase the resolution, which then fixes all the aliasing issues up anyway. And there's no graphical artifacting. Like I was showcasing the other day, that MK4 is not properly emulated yet. So there are like artifacting issues. There's problems like the special effects for the special moves look terrible. So those sorts of things there are not going to be present because the arcade, they're going to bring the literal arcade version and put it into the game, and it's going to look amazing because we'll have an increased resolution for that. I have no doubt that, you know, we're going to have that. And that's really cool. But no, we definitely need Trilogy in the game. I cannot imagine why they wouldn't put it in there. I will not be happy if they don't put it in there because it will be an absolute disgrace if they don't. Right, there's 4 question marks in the trailer that aren't accounted for. And I guarantee you, it's going to be Trilogy, Gold, Mythologies, and Special Forces. That completely rounds out the entirety of the 2D era. And for Trilogy, you would have 2 variations of it. Right? So I consider each block, right, a game but that game can also have 2 variations of it too. So you could have Trilogy, but PS1 or PC, N64. Then Gold, then MK Mythology, Sub-Zero, PS1 version, naturally, and then Special Forces.
I could go on about other titles as well, like Shaolin Monks being a possibility. I think that's possible for a future pack, unless they're going to bring a lot more games to this collection. That one is very, very fun to play against other players as well, but very underrated.
It is very, yeah, the PvP in that is, it'd be insane to play online against other people. Like, it is so well fleshed out, so many good stages to play on. It is actually very, very cool mode, but they won't put it in this. Again, because it fits with the 3D era. It's a 3D era game. You know, it really fits into that particular thing, which I've talked about. I call it the data, or now we're calling it the Datasum. Datasum. Deadly Alliance, Deception, Armageddon, Shaolin Monks, right? Datasum. Right? Thank you, Total MK, for the asum part. So, that would be the best pack, and it would sell like hotcakes. Like, absolutely sell like hotcakes. What I've said before is that people don't realize that this Legacy Collection is them, like, they're signaling their intentions. Right? They're signaling their intentions to do more. Okay? Look at the excitement around this. I've had a couple of negative Nancy comments like, nobody's going to buy this trash. Well, you may not, but I am. And so many other MK fans out there are. Especially us older folk who grew up on these games. Yeah, you have awoken the slumbering beast. Right? And we are coming back with a vengeance. Because, like, when this thing eventually drops, this shit is about to crack the fuck off, right? We're going to have so much fun playing all of these different versions online and having an absolute ball. And if you put something like Trilogy in there and Gold, dude, it is going to go nuts. Like, absolutely fucking psychotically nuts. It's going to be so much fun, you know, and especially the younger generation who've never got to experience this, they're going to find out what it was like, right? When they're sitting there, you know, sort of, you don't know how to do combos and all this sort of stuff. No, I know how to do combos. I just prefer to do them in the old games because it was so much cooler, so much better. Like, it was just so awesome. There's this one reptile combo that you can do, where you can, like, if you hit him with like a force ball, you know, or like you get him in the pop-up. So you do like the pop-up, force ball, standing high punch, dash. And if you're fast enough, as they're flying through the air, you do the dash underneath them. And then you can do another standing high punch, force ball. Like, it's just crazy shit like that, right? And it's really difficult to pull off, too. You know, so it takes a lot of practice, a lot of timing. And that's what I loved about the classic games, right? I'm not a big fan of what they've done in the... I'm not a big fan of NRS's animations and combo systems. I prefer the old 2D Legacy style combo systems. That's just for me personally. Right? I understand people like them, it's fine. The newer stuff, but for me, I found the gameplay a lot tighter, a lot faster, a lot more intense. Matches were really quick to end, which is great, because then you get into the next round or the next fight really fast. You're not sitting around waiting for like a 3-hour cutscene for a fatality to end, all the intros and stuff like that. Everything was just so fast, and I can say that with absolute certainty because I play on Fightcade. Anyone that's played on Fightcade will understand this 100%, right? You can play everything on there except for Trilogy. For some reason, on Fightcade, they haven't put like the PlayStation games on there, despite the fact that they have CD-based games with Dreamcast. You can play Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Dreamcast. You can play MK Gold, Dreamcast. But we can't play PlayStation 1 games? So either they're holding out or something's going on there. I don't know.
Rated, and it's hard for me to even find people talking about the versus mode in Shaolin Monks. Please, if you've ever played Shaolin Monks and you've played versus mode with someone else, share your experience in the comments because I can never find anyone to have this conversation with. I'll save that for another video because I could go on and on.
Oh yeah, we can have a talk about it. Shaolin Monks multiplayer is fantastic. It's just that, you know, back then, like, I don't think you could play. No, it was no online mode for it at all. It was only local multiplayer. So you had to like play against a mate, and I'm pretty sure there was no versus CPU mode either. Now that'd be something really interesting that they could add in. That they obviously add online, but also make it so that you could fight the CPU. So that way, if you can't find anyone online, at least you have the option to still experience that mode, which I think would be really, really awesome. I think that'd be great. I'd also personally love to see a CPU versus CPU mode. I'm a big fan of watching fighting games like characters duke it out. It's like my own version of watching a boxing or UFC match. So in Mugen games, they have that option by default, a watch mode. And I love doing that on the MK games where you pick different MK characters and watch them fight it out. And so that'd be kind of cool if they added something like that in there. So that way you could set both your characters to CPU and then, yep, off you go. Who knows? I don't know what they might do. But anyway.
Rolling back to what's more realistic, and that is Trilogy being in this Legacy Collection. Right here it is, Shao Kahn versus Shao Kahn. Like, you can play this with your buddies. You can just go all out and have a ridiculous time together. That's the fun in it. It's classic marketing. They're showing us a list of games that are going to come with the collection, and then a little bit more, but we don't know what we're getting yet. Man, I hope we get it. The option for tag team was a lot of fun, and then the 8-player combat. I did a video sharing my initial thoughts on the release of the Legacy Collection, but this is me really sharing now the other game I would really like to see in it, and that is Trilogy. Now that you guys know where I stand on this, I want to know where you stand on it as well, whether you've played Trilogy or not, and whether you want to see this included in the Legacy Collection or not. Fingers crossed for Mortal Kombat Trilogy. I'll be live here shortly. If you're new to the channel, like and subscribe, and
So I'll leave a link in the video description for you to go check out Scotty Kombat's this video and other content on his channel. But yeah, I can't imagine why they wouldn't have why they wouldn't have Trilogy. Like at all. Like, just that makes no sense to me whatsoever that they wouldn't do that. But anyway, guys, I'll leave it there. Let me know what you think. Catch you next time.